Jason Statham, the iron will of modern action cinema. The man who turned The Transporter, Crank, and Fast and Furious from movies into myths. He didn't arrive by luck or luxury. He climbed from the damp cold of Shirebrook to Hollywood's brightest marquees on grit, scars, and survival. He was a street seller in London, a competitive diver who missed an Olympic shot, a fighter who had to etch his name into fate with worn, working hands. Every punch, sprint, and detonation you've watched wasn't pretend. It was a life learned the hard way. And yet, behind those roaring engines and unbelievable stunts, there's a steady quiet. A man who once narrowly lived through a 3-ton truck plunging into the Black Sea and somehow surfaced. Now, at 58, carrying time's reminders, injuries and memories, Jason isn't just a star. He's proof that even steel can bruise, and true warriors still bleed. If you believe Jason Statham is more than an actor, one of the great, authentic giants of action, tap like as a nod to the man who turned hardship into legend. No spotlight reaches the cupboards where hunger hides. That's where his story begins, a coal-marked town, Shirebrook, Derbyshire, where wind found any gap in the windows, and nights could outlast hope. Born July 26, 1967, Jason entered a world that demanded tough before tender. His mother, Eileen, a dancer, knew applause that vanished as fast as it came. His father, Barry, did whatever kept the lights on. Miner at dawn, painter by day, street vendor and pub singer by night. The little house smelled of coal smoke and detergent and quiet worry. A single bulb flickered over a kitchen table where coins were counted and tomorrow stretched by will. Beside his older brother Lee, Jason learned that childhood was a luxury some families couldn't afford. He followed Barry through the chilly markets of Great Yarmouth, offering budget jewelry and perfume to strangers who rarely looked back. He'd later joke, "My dad taught me a handstand before I could walk." But the truth beneath the laugh was simple. Balance was something he'd been practicing all his life. When classes ended, most boys chased footballs through mud. Jason chased motion, karate kicks in alleys, dives into any pool that would allow it. At 12, he started training seriously at London's Crystal Palace National Sports Centre. By then, elite divers already had 10 years under them. "You need to start diving when you're 5, he'd admit, with a crooked grin. "I started at 12 too late. Too late. Too late for medals, but not too late for discipline." He stayed long after others went home, climbing the ladder again and again as the janitor shut the lights. The pool turned cold, the echo of his entries the only applause. Hands rubbed raw, muscles burning, still he climbed. Silence became a coach. Discipline a friend. Winter after winter he trained. Seasons blurred to a tower, a board, and a blue square of water. In 1990, he represented England at the Commonwealth Games, stepping off the 10-meter board in front of the world. For one heartbeat, it looked like the boy from Shirebrook might fly all the way to the Olympics. But destiny paused. In 1992, he missed the British team by a single place, one breath between almost and never. 10 years of sacrifice went still under a calm surface. He didn't cry. He watched the ripples vanish and learned what the water was willing to give him. Silence. That silence settled inside. It became patience, the backbone of the man he'd become. He realized effort isn't always rewarded, but endurance always returns as resilience. Barry never told him how to be strong. He showed him by refusing to quit when life had nothing to hand out. Strength, Jason learned, isn't born in winning. It's inherited from struggle. He left the pool, but kept its lessons. The kid who dove into cold water began diving into life. Every stunt, punch, and fall that Hollywood would later capture carried the ghost of the boy who kept climbing the ladder when no one was watching. He didn't win medals. He won something rarer, the habit of getting back up again and again from the bottom. It's cruel how life doesn't break you in one blow. It does it slowly, one lost dream at a time. 1992, he stepped out of the pool and into a city that didn't care about his near miss. London was gray, wet, and unbothered. The same discipline that kept him on the board kept him standing in the storm. There were no coaches, no awards, just cold wind, empty pockets, and a day spent trying to sell a 5-quid bottle of hope. He crashed in whatever room the night allowed, cramped flats, busted windows, dead radiators. He'd wake to see his breath wrapped tighter in a second-hand coat, whisper, "One more day." Meals were an afterthought. A tin of beans, a stale sandwich, tea more sweet than warm. He had learned how to fall. Now he learned how to rise without witnesses. Between 1993 and 1996, he lived hand-to-mouth, moving watches, off-brand scents, small trinkets, and sometimes the illusion of a better afternoon. "I wasn't proud," he'd say later. "But I never lied to myself. I sold what I had because I refused to steal what I didn't." Nights brought training, push-ups by the bed, shadowboxing in the mirror, fighting off the quiet that tried to tell him he was finished. He had no map, no promise, only the sense that life was shaping him into someone the world would one day recognize. Then, a light. While training at Crystal Palace, he caught the eye of Sports Promotions, a London agency looking for athletes with a real, unvarnished presence. They liked his face, less pretty, more lived in. Soon he modeled for Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, Griffin, and later, French Connection, which wanted men who looked like they'd actually lived. The pay helped. What mattered more was belief. The studio's lights were bright. The checks were thin. Between shoots, he returned to the same pavements to sell the same small dreams. "I was a hustler," he'd grin later. "It kept me afloat." The city that ignored him had, in its own way, built him. Then destiny knocked, literally. Guy Ritchie, prepping lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels, needed a street hustler. Through a modeling contact, he met Jason, and didn't see an actor, he saw the thing itself. Jason didn't audition. He talked like he used to on the square. He spoke about corners, bad deals, wet nights. Ritchie listened and finally said, "You're the man. You don't have to act. You've lived it. It changed everything." The role paid $5,000, and it was worth more than gold. For the first time, his scars were currency. 98, lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels hit like a spark. 31-year-old Jason didn't play tough. He was tough. 2000 brought Snatch as Turkish opposite Brad Pitt, and suddenly the kid from Shirebrook stood on red carpets next to the faces from his old VHS tapes. The tux was new. The man inside it was the same one who'd once counted coins for beans. Then, 2002. The transporter turned Jason Statham into an international name. He trained for months, Wing Chun, kickboxing, Krav Maga, and did the fights himself. "If I get hurt," he said, "at least it's honest." He did get hurt. Torn ligaments, battered ribs, a shoulder that still clicks. Mornings tying boots with trembling hands. Nights sleeping on ice packs. The bruises told the truth. By 2005, he went harder with Crank, a full-throttle performance that felt like pure adrenaline on film. But even oxygen can suffocate. From 2002 to 2010, he averaged almost 2 films a year, training by night, fighting on camera by day, living out of suitcases. "You wake up bruised and go to sleep broken," he admitted. Then you do it again. Not every punch landed. 2005's Revolver reunited him with Guy Ritchie. $27 million budget, $7 million return. Critics sneered. The friendship that launched him almost cracked under it. War in 2007 stumbled too, and 2015's Wild Card scraped past $6 million on $30 million. Hollywood, the same machine that loved him, started to whisper replaceable. He never folded. The bank job, 2008, reminded everyone he wasn't just fists, he was focus, grossing $66 million and polishing his standing. 2010 brought The Expendables, shoulder to shoulder with Sylvester Stallone, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren. He wasn't looking up at legends anymore. He was one. Furious 7 made him a global phenomenon, over won $5 billion at the box office, turning him into the villain fans couldn't quite hate. The Meg, 2018, swallowed the globe for $527 million. At 51, he'd conquered oceans, streets, and skies, but the quieter battle persisted. Hollywood adored his fists, not his feelings. "Do one thing too well," he shrugged, "and they won't let you do anything else." Asked about Marvel one day, he quipped, "I could put my grandma in a cape and she could do it." It made headlines. The truth beneath was simple. He wanted reality more than green screens. The offers for deeper drama thinned. He had built an empire of explosions, but the man inside wanted to breathe. Love and loss were learning him, too. Early on with Kelly, life was simple. London nights. Takeout and fresh paint, her teasing him about relentless workouts. His promise, "I'll make this worth your patience." When fame came, the air between them changed. Travel, photos alone, missed calls. Headlines, Billy Zane. He didn't blast or beg. He went quiet. "We were young," he'd say later. Not bitter, just honest. He covered heartbreak with motion. Workouts, workdays, more bruises. Some nights the quiet was louder than explosions. Sophie Monk arrived like sunlight, 26, funny, fearless. For a while she cut through the silence, but careers in different time zones speak different languages. Late 2006, silence did the breaking for them. "Some people aren't meant to stay," he told a friend. "They remind you what warmth is." He never spoke badly of her. She later said he was the hardest man to love, not because he didn't care, but because he carried the world quietly.